Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Leeds series. The city of Leeds is one of the 5 metropolitan boroughs of West Yorkshire. 38 civil parishes lie within its boundaries. Which slice of the city are we seeing today? Today I'm starting this one off in the car. I've just come off the M62 westbound at junction 27 to catch a place that lies right on the border between Leeds and Wakefield. This junction is a double roundabout where several major roads converge. Before the motorways, it was a crossroads, and there was even a railway line thrown in for good measure. Let's go and explore Gildersome. This Leeds video is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find her link in the description. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Gildersome lies 5 miles southwest of Leeds city centre, just north of a major road junction between the M62, A62, A650 and M621. It's quite the place, this one. Beginning on Street Lane, we have our first landmark, and that's Gildersome Conservative Club. Thankfully, a lot of this village is residential, so there's plenty of chance to talk history. I need it too. It has bucket loads. Even though we're in Leeds, this was part of the heavy woolen district. That was surprising to learn, as I generally associated that more with Bradford. In 1937, it was absorbed into the municipal borough of Morley until it was abolished and combined with neighbouring authorities in 1974. What you're looking at here is a church, and there's more than one here. This is St Peter's, although part of the building was the village's first national school. Note the coat of arms above the window. That belongs to the Brudenell family. It served a variety of purposes since it was built in the 1830s, including use by air raid wardens in World War II. Next to this is a cemetery. Nikki's with me, so you know what that means. We had to go and have a look. Mind you, I was quite happy to go along with her here. In here there were a nice mix of both old and new graves, some of the old ones being gigantic obelisks. Right next to the church, one in particular caught our interest. Certainly can't resist a cemetery. Now, there's an obelisk here which has caught our attention.
Yeah, John Holliday, colliery owner of Gildersome.
Ah! Hang on a minute. Let's get down here and have a look. John what, sorry?
Holliday.
John Holliday, colliery owner of Gildersome, died May the 12th, 1862, aged 50. Hey, he did well for himself at age of 50.
Yeah, there's definitely a mystery surrounding this particular churchyard, because there's lots of monuments here that are Victorian and Edwardian, but this church hall is clearly new. So, where's the original St Peter's?
Well, we think that's built on the site of it. Yeah, possibly.
Possibly, but it might be further up in the cemetery, who knows?
Well, there's only one way to find that out. Yep. It seems we were right. This was the churchyard of St Peter's Church from around 1796. The Hollidays, Gildersome's colliery owners, are all over it. These are some more of their graves. Back onto Church Street and we have the New Inn next. This is one of a number of pubs the village has, including the Old Griffin Head and the Gildersome Arms. Let's talk about the name next as we amble through some of the housing estates here. Gildersome is first mentioned in 1811 as Gildersome. The name derives from Old Norse, the words gildi, which means banquet, tax or guild, and husum, which means houses. This then is literally guild houses. Whilst that's now generally accepted to be the case, through history, others have suggested it could have meant stream, ravine, or narrow valley, deriving from the archaic word gil. There was even a suggestion that Gildersome had a Dutch connection. Other places, such as Gildersome, refer to immigrants from Guelderland. So we're on Scott Green Drive. There's a few streets around here which have Scott Green in front of them. I wonder if that was a guy's name or anything. Could possibly have been. There's Scott Green Grove, you see. And I believe there are a couple of other streets which bear Scott Green in front of it. So we're walking up here. We'll take a right turn at some point up here, heading for what I think is a small park. Gildersome is like Kippax in that it stands predominantly above a valley, and when the weather's good, you get a cracking view. After a walk through the Scott Green area, we're at Gildersome Lane, and this was a nice place to perch for a few moments. And on this evidence, can you blame us? Now in shot here, there's a cat, and we've just disturbed two pigeons which have just flown off. The cat was hunting them. It's now waiting for, we think, mice?
Mice or voles or something like that, yeah. But it keeps returning around and giving us mucky looks for watching it.
Yeah, I think we'd better leave it alone. Bus-wise, Gildersome is well served. There are 7 buses listed online, including the 65, 205, 229, 425, 425A, 427 and the JF1, which is a school service. The park area we're heading for can be found at the top of Suffield Road, an area that is bounded by the Farnley Beck, named for Farnley, which lies to Gildersome's immediate north. Leeds historians might well know of the Farnley Wood Plot, a foiled 1663 attempt at taking over the city. Many of the conspirators came from the Gildersome area. So now we're in that park, although it's much less of a park at this point in actuality. There is a nice lake though, and a cracking view once again. Over the beck is New Farnley Cemetery. As you make your way across it, it does become more like a park. There's a football pitch at the other end, and this will lead us out into the Springbank area. Quite a nice dog walking area this. Suffield Park, I think this is called. It just occurred to me, by the way, that Suffield probably means South Field. So I wonder if there's a North Field somewhere around here. Over the past century, Gildersome has changed quite dramatically. It was a thriving mining community with many local pits. A lot of the original mining locations still remain. These include the Brown Hills area, which separates Gildersome from neighbouring Driglington, although equally a lot of land has been redeveloped. That leads us to a mention of this area, Springbank Doorstep Green, which is a nice green spot in the middle of what is otherwise a housing estate. Let's talk notable people next. These include Mary Irvine Thompson, who was educated here and was the first female chartered engineer to be admitted into the Institution of Structural Engineers. Winston Churchill is known to have once made a visit to the village too, stopping on the boundary between Leeds and Morley near St Bernard's on Gelded Road. In terms of elevation, Gildersome is one of the highest areas in the city of Leeds, and here at 561 feet above sea level is the highest part, and we were feeling it at this point. Well, this, according to my research before I came here, is the highest point of the route, and boy can you tell, it's quite a long way up that hill, isn't it? Yeah, it's not shallow. So, well, at least one good thing about being on top of a hill is that from there on in, everything is downhill. This now is Town End, and we have a Wesleyan chapel next, with a date stone of 1886. A former Sunday school building to the right has been replaced with housing. This was intended to be a shot of the very patriotic bunting for the Jubilee, although this is close to the former Maiden Mills. Originally, there was a flax mill, which burnt down in 1914. So now we're on the village green where we find the War Memorial. This is one of the largest in Leeds and it has a total of 93 names, 60 from World War I and 33 from World War II. Opposite there's a shop. I should note here that my route did not take in Turton Hall, which was a prominent and wealthy school close to here. It was once visited by John Wesley. A magnificent thorn tree once sat upon the green. Underneath were benches where townsfolk would gather to hear news and gossip while sitting in its shade. On the opposite side of the green there's a stone commemorating 100 years of rainbows, brownies and guides in Gildersome. So Nikki's suffering a little bit with her feet at the moment. Her footwear is not the correct footwear really for walking around. So as a result of that, the co-op, which is just down there, Nikki's gone to find some like little bandages or maybe something to put underneath her feet just to soothe the blisters which are appearing on her feet. And now as a result of that, that's kind of changed my route. I was originally going to be going down Hart Hill Rise, Gildersome locals will know where I mean, and going up there past the War Memorial that way to then come back down this street and then along here. But of course now we've done that, we can't do that because I'm the wrong way around. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to nip down here and take a few shots of some of the shops and amenities that are along here and then come back to this street and head down that way to sort of rejoin the route I was going to do. So yeah, hopefully it's not too much of a diversion. Now we're in the village centre on Finkel Lane. Across the street here is Alishan Indian Bistro. I've included their website in the links below. This used to be a pub called the Junction Inn. Gildersome once had a dry saltery and a cloth hall. An area called Hudson's Nook was a mercantile centre where for almost 2 centuries were located grocers, drapers and cobblers, etc. The car park of the new Co-op supermarket seen here occupies that spot today. There are plenty of other shops dotted around, but Gildersome's main retail facility is this. Then we've got the Grove, which is a block of sheltered housing comprising 32 properties, and it's for those of retirement age. After Nikki rejoined me, we were back out onto Town Street. Opposite us here is Karen's Pantry, which is a sandwich shop. A few doors up is Ocean Wild, a local chippy. And this is something you rarely see these days, it's a laundrette. I'll be honest with you, the only time I've ever seen one of these before has been in London. I need to travel more, right? So Nikki's just making some running repairs to her feet. Apparently these plasters are really good. They're blister plasters, aren't they, Nikki? I'm not going to show your feet, don't worry.
Compeeds. Oh, the brands are available.
Yes, indeed they are. Apparently, Nikki says they are going to be hidden from Hannah. So, yeah, probably a good idea. Hannah is quite obsessed with plasters. This is the village's library and there's a playground right next to this. My sources also tell me somewhere close to this area used to be a World War II air raid shelter. Finally, a parish notice board. I was beginning to think I wasn't going to find one of these. Nikki did the honours, so let's move on again. Out of the library there's a ginnel, that's Yorkshire speak for an alleyway, which connects Town Street back to Finkel Lane. Through that gap in front of us is Park House, most likely built in the 1730s. The Hudson family resided here for 3 generations. In 1829 they passed it on to the Bilboroughs and in 1867 it was sold to the Holidays. Another name associated with Gildersome is Booth. This building was believed to have been the residence of Reverend Nathaniel Booth and his Booth relations for a century, and it's now a pharmacy, and over the road there's a medical centre. Today was a Saturday, so it wasn't open, but it's open every weekday, mostly from 8 until 6, except on Wednesdays when it's 7 until 6:30. Okay, so we're almost finished with Gildersome. There's just a few more things to see. There's 2 schools, basically, is what we're aiming for now. There's Gildersome Primary School. I think the other one's called Birchfield. I'm not totally sure until I get there. We're just using this footpath to get around the back of the first one. Then there's another footpath which goes around the back of the second one and links us back to the street where we started. How are those feet, Mrs?
It's my own fault. I picked the wrong shoes.
Perhaps slightly unusual for a village of its size, it's always had a number of schools right through its history. At present there are 2 primary schools, Gildersome Primary and Birchfield Primary. Gildersome Primary was built in 1984, merging 2 former schools together. Its emblem is a phoenix, as both former schools suffered terrible fires in the 1970s and the 1980s. Now, I certainly wasn't expecting to see a book exchange in this place. However, I was wrong. This little library can be found at the end of the footpath behind the school. And this takes us back to Street Lane, where there's a few more shops to add to the ones in the village centre. Gildersome has associations with the Quakers. This building here is a Friends meeting house dating from between 1756 and 1758. It's a listed building too. Over the road is Flossmoor Way, which is another street with a bit of a new feel about it, so clearly a bit of infilling has gone on here. If you follow this road south out of Gildersome, you'll eventually come to the A62, and that's where you meet the motorway junction that you saw at the beginning of this episode. The final part of the walk sees us take on Woodhead Lane, which turns into a footpath and runs out into the valley. This is just off Street Lane. It runs past an entrance to Birchfield Primary School. This seems to be a back entrance, it's certainly not the main one. You can't really see it from here because it's obscured by trees. It's this part of Gildersome, though, where the former collieries were sited. There were 2. One was called Quarry Pit, according to my sources, and looking at the landscape, I reckon it was out here somewhere. Given the overhead shot from Google Maps, this seems the most likely place for it. I'm not certain, so please do let me know if it's not. The other pit was sited near a railway station, which we're yet to talk about. With that in mind, we're back on Reedsdale Gardens, where I started about 2 hours ago. Not a bad walk around, but we're not finished yet. Okay, that's the main walk around Gildersome, but you guys still need today's picture bit. There's going to be a bit in this because of the size of this place. Certainly no way I could fit it all into one main walking route. Okay, we're back in the car. Now, I'm not quite finished with this episode because I will put the camera on the dash, and as I drive out of Gildersome I will show you a little bit more of it. There's an industrial estate to the south and some other bits and bobs that I haven't caught yet. The original plan today was to do Gildersome and Driglington, which is the next village over, but Nicky's feet just will not allow that. So I'm going to abandon Driglington for now. Yeah, sorry
guys, you won't have me in Drig, but you know, at least I've been in this one, although I'm now sat in the car sans shoes because my feet are absolutely throbbing.
Driglington will happen, there's no doubt about that. It will happen. I'll probably have to put it together with Morley, which is going to be a really difficult day because Morley, I'm sure you know guys, is really big. So I'll try and do those two together at some point.
Sorry dear, but I'm sure your feet will stand up to that challenge.
Oh, I'm sure they will, but but as far as Drig goes today, it's not happening. So anyway, there's a bit more of Gildersome to see, but that's pretty much it. I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and this has been the Parish of Gildersome, and we're out. As we drive away from Gildersome, I have to mention sports. Very shortly we'll pass the entrance to Gildersome Sports Club, which is right after a care home called Stone Gables. The village has a large sporting community, mostly with football and cricket, but there are others too. The village football team is known as Gildersome Spurs. In 2007, the cricket club broke records when their junior team played 4 matches, one in each country of the UK, in the space of 12 hours, a feat which was recorded by local and national media. In terms of rugby, because, we can't come to West Yorkshire without mentioning that, Gildersome entered a rugby league team into the Yorkshire League Division 4 in 2007. As Street Lane continues south, we get close to the junction with the A62 and the M62, and there's an industrial area I can partially show you. This road, Gelded Road, was the Leeds to Huddersfield Turnpike. Gildersome had 2 railway stations. The industrial estate we're driving onto here was close to the site of Gildersome West. Originally it was just called Gildersome, and it served the village from 1856 to 1968 on the Leeds, Bradford and Halifax Junction Railway. Its name was changed in 1951 to avoid confusion with the other station of the same name further north. Lastly, there's this area, Plantation Services, which has a few food outlets like a Starbucks and a Leon, and there's also a petrol station here as well. This is all within touching distance of the M621 and M62.